We're going to start off today with another cultural ambassador. I'm very happy to have Rania Khater here today. She's going to come up and show a few slides, and then we're going to have a short conversation. Let me introduce her. She is a second-year master's student in the public health program, working on her master's in public health administration, I believe, right?
Global health.
Global health, there you go, okay. And she's also a member of the International Cultural Scholars Program, which I've told you about is an organization here that is made up of international students who are interested in sharing their cultures with different people on campus. She came from Egypt 4 years ago with her husband and son. When her husband was accepted into a doctoral program in the College of Engineering, she started her master's degree 2 years later, so 2 years ago at this point in time. And they're going to have a triple graduation coming up, because she's going to be graduating with her master's degree this spring in public health. Her husband is going to be graduating from the College of Engineering with her PhD, and her son's going to be graduating from preschool. And also significantly, before she came here, Rania had earned her MD in Egypt and was doing her residency in pediatrics before coming here to do her master in public health. So she is going to share a little bit about fish and fisheries and aquaculture from Egypt, and we're going to have a little bit of an interview. So I'll have you come up here, I'll set up your slides,
okay.
And then...
And I'll be doing the clicking?
I can do the clicking for you if you like, but if you want to, that would be great.
Or let me do it.
Okay, perfect. Come on, come back. So let's go here. And then when we're done with that, we'll sit down in these chairs, and I'm going to ask you some questions.
Perfect.
There you go.
So, hi everyone, thank you for having me today. And you might know that I come, oh hi, I know you. So, I'm not an expert in fisheries by definition, but I got some information, and you can always jump in and let me know what you think. So as far as where Egypt is, it's in the African continent, and it is Africa's largest aquaculture producing country. On the worldwide, it ranks 11th and only 3rd in tilapia after China and Indonesia. It provides 79% of the domestic consumption. And recently, the government has launched the first phase of the largest fish farm in the North Africa and Middle East and North Africa region. So this is as far as academia goes in this country. This is now some few pictures. So this is the fish farm that I was talking about. It's in the Middle Eastern, Mediterranean Sea region. So if I go back here quickly, as you can see, Egypt overlooks the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea on the boundaries. So the fish farm would be on the Mediterranean Sea. And then this here to show that we are most dependent on fish, on fresh fish rather than frozen. So we catch most of the fish we eat comes in the fresh form. This is a very typical setting of an Egyptian family eating fish. It's usually on Fridays, because in Egypt the weekends is Friday and Saturday. So to bring the family together around fish, it should be a weekend, because it's time consuming to grill. We usually eat it grilled or fried. And the most common types of fish we eat, I have a paper because I'm not really familiar with the English names. So mullet, which we call in Arabic buri, tilapia, which we call in Arabic bolti, tuna, sardines, squid, shrimps, crabs, lobsters, and mussels. Okay, and then we also, after this is over, fish usually makes us really thirsty, so we end up having watermelon would be the perfect follow-up for our meal. This is another cultural thing. It's a snapshot from a funny movie about an American Egyptian citizen, the one on the left, who came to Egypt in a vacation. So in Egypt, we also celebrate Easter, which is around the corner in here too. But we have a very common dish, which is fish-based. It's called fisikh in Arabic. In English, that is fermented, salted, and dried mullet. So it's a very ancient tradition. Actually, it dates back to the ancient Egyptians. And as you can tell from the description it doesn't smell really good, so like people who are not like from the country wouldn't find that a pleasant dish to have. And then this is the fisherman village in Alexandria. Again, Alexandria is on the Mediterranean Sea, so this is where most of the fishermen would like lives. This is how the houses are and their boats. And finally, since I talked about the Mediterranean Sea, also Egypt is known for some really beautiful coral reefs and diving spots along the Red Sea. So that's all I have in terms of slides.
Great.
Now we can go to the questions.
So one of the things we talked about last week was the sort of the tradition of spreading out newspapers on the table and things like that.
Yes,
So,
that was very
so that's a really common thing that is particularly eating crab, crawfish boils in the southeast, things like that. It's great. So you've come from a long way.
Yes.
And Egypt's very different here, very different culture, very different part of the world geographically. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the cultural beliefs that Egyptians have in relation to fish?
Yes, so one common belief could be funny, that seafood or fish is good for the sexual health, and then because of that, usually a tradition that happens there is the friends of a groom-to-be would usually take him like dine out in a seafood restaurant, in a fancy seafood, and like they'll pay the bill for him to like have a happy sexual life in the future.
So a seafood bachelor party.
Yeah, kind of. And we also have some beliefs in terms of health, since I come from a health background. So there is a belief that you shouldn't eat fish with milk and drink milk. Like this combination does not work. And there's also a common proverb that kind of indicates that things are incompatible or you're just doing nonsense. And the proverb translates to fish, milk, tamarind. So like you're just adding up different things that does not like kind of have a real meaning to it. So these are like some of the cultural things.
So you mentioned the bachelor party, the seafood meal for the groom-to-be as a special occasion. Are there other special holidays or times of year when seafood is particularly valued?
So it's as I mentioned, it's the Easter. So I said that in the Easter we also have these colored boiled eggs, hard-boiled eggs, but also the fish. And usually people would eat like green onions with it and lemon. And there's also a side dish for those who do not tolerate the smell of the mullet. It's called ringa, and that would be salted herrings in English. So that's like less on the smelly side. So if people like, personally, I don't eat both. I cannot. I just do tuna on that day. So that's the other thing that is very popular in terms of occasions.
Anybody here from the Gulf Coast at all? Hung around in Florida, Alabama, or anything like that? No. If you ever go there, they don't do the salted dried mullet, but they have smoked mullet, and it is so amazingly good. Yeah. So it's there's a variety of mullet species around the world, and it's in a lot of places a very common food item. And the great thing about I was in Florida over New Year's, and we went to a local maybe a quarter the size of room kind of seafood shack, and we can buy mullet for like $1.99 a pound. Right? And it's really great grilled as well, so it's something that we do. We typically have a seafood meal for us on New Year's.
So one more thing regarding the salted mullets is like around this year the Ministry of Health in Egypt would like heavily announce like, please people make sure that the fish is well prepared and preserved, because if not there would be cases of botulism. It's some kind of poisoning. So even though like with all that, Egyptians will still go to the gardens and like eat it's a part of the tradition.
Oh, good, because we're talking about seafood health in class this week. So that's perfect. So you mentioned that massive aquaculture farm, and it's all directed at tilapia. Yes?
I don't really know that like specific information, but I would say so, since this is like Egypt's strength point at this point.
Yeah. You also see that. I find it a really striking photo of the fishing village, the fishing area in Alexandria, Is sort of traditional fishing or aquaculture sort of more important, both sort of culturally and as well how much seafood you get from it? And is there really sort of large-scale commercial fishing as well?
So I do know about the traditional fishing, and you'll find a fish market where the products would be presented or displayed while still being fresh and alive. But like from my readings, I got to know that aquaculture is kind of outpacing the traditional fishing. As far as commercial, I'm not sure.
Okay, all right. Is there you mentioned the salted dried mullet. Are there other seafood dishes for which Egypt is particularly well known, or a particular way of preparing seafood that is?
So the most
really
common ways would be grilling and frying, but we also have like some kind, like we'll add vegetables and we'll make like a stew out of the fish, so like potatoes, carrots, and tomatoes, things like that, to make it like even more nutritious.
Are there particular spices that are really important?
So I have a secret, that's a personal secret. I'm not really good at cooking, and like I usually get like recipes.
Uh-huh.
My mom would have a better answer to that.
Okay.
So I'm not really,
Okay.
yeah, not really good at that.
All right. So, haven't made it to Egypt yet, hoping to someday. If I go to Egypt, how do I find the perfect seafood restaurant? Is it in a big city, a small town on the coast? Do I go to Alexandria?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So probably your best bet would be either Alexandria, which is on the Mediterranean Sea, as I mentioned, and it also has a nickname that it's the bride of the Mediterranean Sea. And then the other very well-known place would be Port Said, and that would be on the Suez Canal. So like both seas are connected through a canal. It's a man-made canal, and Port Said like overlooks that canal. I've heard that like the fish there is really yummy. I didn't try it myself, but like hopefully one day.
Yeah. And so if you were to take me to your childhood home, what would your mom or dad make for us?
So
What did you grow up with?
Yeah, so like there's a voting system usually on Fridays, like who wants grilled, who wants fried, because there is a preference. So like after that is like the count is tallied and the votes are tallied. Like mom would go to the kitchen and start working on that, and like dad probably would go shopping for the watermelon or the soft drinks, because we really get kind of thirsty, and the kids, we will be working on the salads. So we usually have green salad and tahini next to our fish dishes. These are the most two common.
And so it wouldn't just be your mom and your dad and you, would it? It would be, it's a big, who all would come to a Friday or Saturday fish dinner?
So because I was like, so let me rephrase that. Now we're based in Egypt, so now it would be a bigger gathering, because it is the weekend and we want, like we're very social creatures. So it would be my like aunts and her family, my aunt and her family, my family, and yeah, my aunts on both sides probably. Yeah, because I have a smaller family. We don't have, maybe my grandmother. Yeah, should be there too.
But traditionally, it's a big family event every weekend. Most weekends anyway, centered around seafood.
So not every weekend, but like when the weekend happens, it's usually like
Okay.
everyone would come over and like
Yeah.
we'll share the food together.
Okay. So you've been here for 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about your seafood experience here in the U.S. versus in Egypt, and in fact, just sort of generally how you've had to go about buying food?
So as far as fish is concerned, so in Egypt I wasn't really used to frozen fish. Here it's all frozen. I'm not very resourceful as how to find fresh fish in here. But the other thing I would say about fish and how like my experience differed is that for me here fish would be like higher on my list as a plate to order, because as a Muslim person I have like restricted I have some diet restrictions. Beef and chicken should be what's called halal. When I'm doubtful about the situation, like whether I'm in an airplane or a restaurant or like whatever, like fish would be a safe like other than vegetarian dishes, fish would be my safe bet. So like I always order the filet o fish in McDonald's. That's my only thing I can eat there.
All right. You're only here for a couple more months.
Mhm.
Where are you going to go for seafood before you leave?
So this is a question for you actually. Like, where should I go here before I leave?
Where should she go?
Local ocean. Newport.
Newport, local oceans?
Yeah, that's I'll definitely work on that because like I'm taking a reduced course load this term, and I plan like I voluntarily have this decision that I want to enjoy my last final term, so I'll definitely go there.
And your son, does he like seafood?
Shrimps.
Shrimp.
A lot. Yeah.
Do you buy the little local shrimp, the little Oregon shrimp, the frozen ones?
Yeah, the frozen ones.
So shrimp season just opened in Oregon,
Cool.
and so if you go to Newport, there should be a couple shops where you should be able to get them fresh now.
Okay, cool.
So,
Yeah,
excellent.
we'll work on that.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
We have Rania here for a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions for her? Surely somebody has a question.
Is farmed fish like seen as equal or as good as wild caught fish from the fishermen, or is there a preference for wild fish?
Yeah, culturally there is a preference.
Can you hear the question in the back? Yeah, pretty well. Okay.
On the population level or on the personal like Egyptian level, we would prefer the wild caught rather than the farmed. There are people like, and this doesn't only apply in like on fish. So even the older generations, they would still prefer like organic chicken, organic, like they will raise these species, beef, yeah, all the kind of like animal-based proteins. We would prefer like having it fresh and organic rather than processed or like farmed or things like that. Good question.
So what did you think when you first walked into a market here and saw the entire display case of frozen seafoods? Was it a surprise?
So I wouldn't say that food is my highlight in the US experience. There are other highlights. Food is not one of them. At least here, I wasn't like been around. I hear that other places and states would have like more options. But as far as here, that's not like, yeah.
Okay.
I actually learned, since I mentioned it earlier, that I'm not a very good cook. So I actually like had to learn to cook here more than I was used to in my country. I would order food from there, but here I had to learn. And even my husband had to learn. Now we're like better chefs and cooks than when we were in Egypt.
Oh, good. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again. I really
Thanks.
appreciate you coming to talk to us today.
Thanks.
And good luck with your last term here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and enjoy your class.
Thanks.